Hi, I'm Elena, a senior profile expert with MBA and Beyond. And today I'm going to talk to you about branding. Ta-da! So, branding is a really big deal for us here at MBA and Beyond. It's how we get the opportunity to know you and to allow you to share what you're an expert in, which is you. There's a theme here. Okay, so branding, you'll see it throughout our entire process. It shows up in everything from step 1 through step 9. However, the primary work of it is done in steps 3 through 5. So you'll see that here on the right, a little picture of our client portal. And so step 3 is content gathering, which we'll talk about here shortly. Step 4 is when you review that content with a consultant. And then in step 5, together, you and your consultant build your brand. And your brand is reflective of your character, your purpose, your goals. So it's a really awesome tool, and I can't wait to show you again like what value it brings, not just to the MBA application, but also beyond the application. So branding essentially is how candidates define and highlight the values and attributes that they bring to the table. And not just a candidate, but people in general in the professional world. There are lots of reasons why a brand might be of value to you and why you're going to need to show what you bring to the table. But more pragmatically, during the application process, branding helps with all components. So whether it's creating, really powerful essays or communicating more effectively about your goals and desires for a program and all of that in your interviews, it really adds a lot of value and it makes those things happen more efficiently. So, a little bit more about content gathering and branding. So, these are the reasons we really value this for the process and for our clients. So there's introspection, which of course is important in any big step you're going to take. It increases the intentionality behind things, the purpose, it improves your focus. We also do it for alignment purposes. We really value collinearity throughout an application, meaning like a consistent kind of storyline happening throughout all parts. This is a big green flag to admissions when they can see that alignment and collinearity in an application. Depth, because you're going to have a lot to share. There's a lot of experiences you've gone through, a lot of, just a lot of things that make you unique as a person, a lot of stories you can tell. However, it can be hard to decide what shows the most impact, what really aligns well with your character, and content gathering and branding really helps this. And then, of course, there's efficiency, because we want you writing about the content, the topics that matter to admissions or employers. We don't want you getting distracted and going down rabbit holes about some other things. So just for example, here's the client portal we use. And in content gathering, you'll see here on the left that there are a bunch of different topics: goals, strengths, achievements, weaknesses, failures, international experiences, extracurriculars, and the why MBA question. So within each of these categories, we ask you additional questions and then offer you, tips and tools on how to answer them effectively. The reason we ask you questions under these topics are because this is what admissions is going to want to know. At the competitive programs, they are wanting to know, their questions are going to be surrounding these topics in some form or fashion. So we go ahead and we get you to start thinking about these things intentionally, and sharing all your stories and anecdotes, letting you take time to choose like what you think are the best examples, etc., and filling out content gathering. And then together, you and the consultant take all of that content and build your brand. So that's why, again, it's something we really, really focus on. Now, I want to show you a few scenarios that are actually pulled from clients like that we have worked with or profile evaluations we've done. And I think these scenarios will help you see the value of branding and starting early on your brand. Okay, you ready? So we have scenario 1. Okay, I'm going to call him Mr. Options. So he doesn't have a GMAT score. He's currently working in the energy sector. His post-MBA goal, he hasn't really narrowed down on his short-term or long-term goals yet, but he knows he wants to go into clean tech. And for extracurriculars, He's involved in employee engagement, mentoring, and also marathon training. So he decides he's going to start working on his brand now with us before he takes his GMAT. So, because after all, if he doesn't get a good score, he may not apply for an MBA, but he definitely is going to want to pivot careers because he really wants to go into clean tech. We have scenario two, we have Miss Early Riser. So she also does not have a GMAT score currently, but she is in the finance industry. Her short term goal is to stay within a financial industry role and long term to go into agriculture and sustainability. Her extracurriculars are financial mentoring, beekeeping, baking, and animal shelter volunteering. And so she decides she's going to start working with us again ahead of time while she preps for her GMAT. After all, her score may not be as high as she expects, so she wants time to enhance her application kind of as a safeguard against that. Then we have scenario three, Mr. Chill. So Mr. Chill has a 740 GMAT, good score. His current industry, he's an analyst for a big tech company. And for his post MBA goals, his short term is strategy consulting, again, within the same industry. And then long term, he wants to be an entrepreneur within the tech industry. His extracurriculars, he is involved in employee engagement. He is prepping for his CFA level 2, and he's involved in tutoring and mentoring. So he decides he will wait to start working on his brand until the summer because he wants to study for his CFA level 2. By the way, we're assuming right now it is early spring. And so they are about 6 months or so out from round 1 applications. So just giving you guys that timeline. All of these scenarios, they're all about 6 months from needing to turn in a round 1 application. Okay, anyway, so scenario 3, Mr. Chill, he's not ready to get started. He's probably going to wait until the summer. He's not really worried about, his applications too much or his branding because he's not really pivoting industries and he has multiple extracurriculars, so he's feeling pretty confident. Okay, so scenario 1, remember, Mr. Options has started working with us on his brand. So around March, he realizes he's, lacking in some things. And so his consultant advises him to increase his clean tech interest and to enhance his relationship with his current supervisor. So he must have expressed some, maybe concern about his letters of recommendation coming up. So in April, he decides to meet with his supervisor. He discusses options for maybe transitioning into a renewable sector of the company. He also asks for monthly check-ins with his supervisor to talk about like his goals and how he's doing in that role. In May, he takes his GMAT, scores a 690, which is not at all what he was aiming for. He has a monthly check-in at that time with his supervisor. He does continue to use his branding doc to ensure he's emphasizing his strengths with the supervisor so that the supervisor is hearing consistently that branding message. And in June, he actually decides he wants to pivot to a clean tech startup and that he's not going to pursue an MBA at this time. And so in July, he uses his branding info again to, help him do his resume. He does a great interview and he gets a glowing recommendation from his supervisor because he was doing those monthly check-ins. And the supervisor, again, was influenced by his brand and understood his brand and was able to communicate that effectively to Mr. Option's new employer. So this is a scenario where someone was able to benefit from branding and actually use that as an opportunity to pivot, even though they ended up not going for an MBA. It still proved to be useful. Okay, in scenario 2, Miss Early Riser. So remember, she's trying to make a pivot from finance to agriculture sustainability. She doesn't have a GMAT score yet. She does have pretty good extracurriculars. They do seem maybe a little random, right, just up front, but here we go. Okay, so in March, she started content gathering. She realizes she brings a lot to the table. She doesn't recognize that she's not sure what to focus on. She's got a lot of stories to tell. And so she works with a consultant to build her brand. And she realizes her extracurriculars actually do line up with her goals pretty well. And the consultant also helps her create a storyline that connects her short-term goals with her long-term, because a little bit of background, she was raised on a family farm. And so her background, her childhood was spent, having that connection with agriculture. And so that has influenced her. Now in her current industry, she wants to go back to India to help, farmers and people in the agricultural business, especially startups, be successful. And a big issue there is cash flow. And so that is why she's wanting to use her finance background to go into that industry. So the consultant helps her make sense of it, and create that storyline. So in April, Miss Early Riser is feeling more confident in her goals. She decides to go ahead and actually make a career pivot to an agricultural startup, still in a financial role. But believe it or not, this pivot, while it could feel stressful to many, actually helps her feel less stressed as she preps for the GMAT, because she knows her resume is showing collinearity with her goals and strengths. So it actually is taking a little bit of stress off of her as she studies. In May, she takes the GMAT. She gets a 720. It's not as high as she was hoping for, but she still feels confident in her application because her brand and her resume are, really strong. So she enrolls into an all-in package with us. And so we go ahead and, again, just kind of transfer her branding into the package. And she starts to research schools with her consultant now that she has her GMAT score. She ends up discovering an organization at her dream school that aligns with her long-term goals. And so she networks heavily with that advisor and a few students within it. And yeah, so I'm happy to say that she did, last I heard, end up with an interview at her dream school. So that's really exciting. All right, then we have Mr. Chill. So 740. He's like, oh, I want to stay in the tech industry. He feels pretty confident in his extracurriculars, his GMAT score, etc. So for March through May, he's not, he doesn't work with us. He kind of is working on his own. He prepares for his CFA level 2. He does start researching schools. He's starting to connect with alumni, from his dream schools and target schools, alumni that he's met through acquaintances, etc. So he's preparing for certain things, doing some research. Then June through August, he does get started working on his applications, his resume, his essays. And then in September, he ends up submitting his application for review by a consultant. So the consultant provides this feedback. First of all, they tell him his professional trajectory storyline isn't actually really clear. He doesn't do a good job of saying why his current role as an analyst, why he's going to strategy consulting, then to be an entrepreneur. Even though he's remaining within the same industry, he's not doing a good job of saying why he needs those skills or how an MBA is going to help him in certain spaces. It's not made clear. Also, they're unsure as to why he ended up pursuing a CFA level 2 if he wasn't planning to stay in finance, be in a financial role. While it is an additional credential, it doesn't really show any kind of initiative towards his goals, his long-term or his short-term goals, honestly. So they were unsure why he spent time studying for that instead of doing something maybe more applicable to his goals or, his brand. So also his extracurriculars, while he does have several, they don't show alignment, again, with the short or long-term goals. He was prepping for CFA level 2, employee engagement, tutoring, all of that is great, but he's not looking to necessarily go into a role where he's super involved with the community. And so again, they don't really align with his long-term goal of entrepreneurship or tech. And then no experience as an entrepreneur also is going to present as very high risk to admissions because, again, he's not showing initiative towards entrepreneurship currently. He's not showing them that he understands the risks involved or that he's taken steps to, address those long-term risks, because an MBA program does not want to be seen as a magic wand that's just going to make all things possible. They want you to see them as a very important tool, but ultimately to have other tools in your toolkit to help you achieve these goals. So just because you're staying within the same industry does not mean necessarily that, even a pivot to roles or a different role or something, you need to show that you have taken steps or that you're taking initiatives towards learning more about that industry or role, or again, setting yourself up for success. And then finally, they didn't see program specific details that actually align with his short term goal, only his long term. So he was looking for he was connecting with alumni that were involved in the, again, like entrepreneurial type of clubs. But he was not showing, he didn't mention anything to do with strategy consulting, even though he projected that as his short term goal directly after an MBA. So the consultant said, hey, I think MBA admissions will wonder how you're setting yourself up for success for strategy consulting if you are only really pursuing or researching entrepreneurial ventures. So he did not overall present a good, consistent brand. And because he did not have a consultant review it until September, he was not able to make those adjustments to, his professional life or his extracurriculars, et cetera, in time for round one. All right, so those are 3 scenarios, and I hope that, hopefully you connect with one of them and can see the value of branding. But I want to talk more about branding beyond the MBA, because branding is really important, whether you're looking to build, network, pivot, or lead. Chances are at some point in your professional life, you're going to need to do one of these things, whether that's build a platform as an entrepreneur, perhaps network for a new job, pivot within your industry to a new role, or lead, like get promoted within your current company and lead a team or a department. You're going to need to do one of these most likely, and you're going to need your brand. You're going to need to understand your brand so that you can put it forth in interviews, or whenever you're talking to people to fundraise money, or again, just networking, or inspiring or motivating employees who are working under you to kind of get on board with a program. You are going to need to understand your brand and ensure that the moves that you're taking professionally align with your values. They align kind of with your goals. All of that is very important. And so that is branding. And as you can tell, very high value to us, hopefully very high value to you as well. So if you are interested in working with us for branding, we can work with you on just branding, or it's going to be part of our all-in package. So just let us know. Remember that we offer free one-on-one profile evaluations, and we can't wait to help you get started on your MBA journey. All right. Good luck.